Hello guys, welcome to the episode 35 of this playlist on creating the web API and consuming it with MVC in ASP.NET Core 3.1. I shall walk you through the creating the update customer action method today, both the get and the post verbs. And these episodes and the code base are built in continuation from the previous ones. I request you hence to go through the previous ones before coming to this one to get the full value out of this tutorial. And I shall give you the promotional link to my premium courses on Udemy. Now there are 5 with the live course um, published last week on ASP.NET Core 3.1, build hands-on application and web projects. And if you're interested, please put some comments and positive feedback and I'm happy to give you my promotional links. All right. And I also request you to subscribe to the channel and share it. So let's see what is the outcome of today's lecture. Now, by the end of this lecture, we should be able to create the update customer HTTP get action method to return a record for a customer with a given customer ID to update. So you need to first, before updating, before posting after the updates, you need to get the form for a customer with a particular ID. And then create an update customer with a post request to update the customer details to the database after an update. So in the Visual Studio, I'll create an HTTP get. I'll call the HTTP get verb, and then I'll create a public async task. On iActionResult and call this update customer. And provide it an int ID of type int. Okay, this is very familiar signature for the action method. Now this one, update customers get method, is almost exactly similar to the content of the get customer HTTP post method. So I will copy everything. Why, I will tell you in a bit. So just copy this and paste here. All right, and there is no model state check here because I am just fetching a record with the HTTP get verb for a particular ID that I have already passed by clicking on that record, on a customer record, where the ID is automatically embedded in that record. So basically what, again, just for refreshment, I am just initializing a new instance of a customer class and then calling the HTTP client, initializing an instance of the HTTP client class, and then using the HTTP client created over here and calling the get async method and passing the web API URL, appending the ID to it, and then receiving the response by reading from the response object response.content property dot read as string async. So asynchronously I am reading the string and putting it, assigning it to API response string, and then I am just passing this API response string and deserializing it through JSON convert to cast it to a customer object, and then returning the view with the customer object as a parameter. So this is the update customer. This is simple enough for the HTTP get. Now comes the HTTP post also. HTTP post, it is basically a very similar signature till this point, whereas I enter a parameter ID parameter of int type. Here I'll be entering the customer object, okay, because I have already got the customer object here in the get request. So accordingly, public async task on iAction result again the same name with a different signature. Just a method overload. So I am giving it customer with a name, customer type I am feeding as parameter, customer, and then within a pair of curly braces I am just going to initialize another customer object of type customer, and this time let me name this differently with received customer. Here I have to definitely check model state, validity of the model state, because this is a post request and I am going to check the model binding, if the model state is valid, because if I have to update, I shouldn't be able to get away with just passing empty string or not writing anything or passing a different kind of data type or not complying to the validation attributes. Okay, so model state, if it is valid, then using now here it is a bit different, the code here. So I am initializing a var variable content which is of a new multipart form data content. This is here. So it creates a new instance of the multipart form data content class. Alright, so what is multipart form data content? Now this is Microsoft documentation and I have opened just to show you what is a multipart form data content class. Now this content class, multipart form data content class, provides a container for content encoded using multipart / form data MIME types. Okay, so this is because we are actually dealing with form data. So this all multipart form data content does is provide methods to add required content disposition headers to content object added to the collection. Now if you look into another article .add method, because that will be using, so this adds HTTP content to a collection of HTTP content objects that get serialized to multipart form data MIME types, because we need to actually send the form data as a string and serialize it to JSON, which will be sent to the web API URL asynchronously to get the response back. That's all what we are doing. So we are using an instance of the multipart form data content. Now the meaning will be further clear when I go to the next step. Now next is we'll be adding, there is a content, this add method to this content, multipart form data content .add method. Now what we can add, there are three overloads. One of them is HTTP context and HTTP content, and then string name, and the third one is HTTP content string name and string file name. So I'll be using this second one, HTTP content and the string name. So what is HTTP content? I will make use of new string content class. So string content class, which we have used up here, string content class, okay, creates a new instance of the string content class. So here to the new string content, I'll be using this overload. First I'll have to form the string. So I have been given this customer object. So customer dot id dot to string, to make it to string, and then outside this one, this will be the id. This will be the id column, mapped to the id column in the database, and then semicolon, and then copy it over to add all the properties. So customer dot name, now name is itself a string, id was not string, so it was explicitly cast to string. Customer dot name, and this property is name, okay. And similarly customer dot address, and this field was exactly address. So here this has to be mapped to the database, so that database column is also address with this same spelling. So customer dot telephone and email, then telephone, because these fields are not only mapped to the database, but they are mapped to the model first, okay. So because I'm going to generate a JSON string which will be sent asynchronously to the web API, and the returned response will be deserialized to form the customer object. So this needs to map with the customer properties, customer class properties or customer model properties. So here this will be again, the last one was email, and within string it is double quotes email, right. And then within this outer using statement will be the inner using statement using var response. So this part I will copy because this is very similar with a minor change, to have a put async method instead of get async. So var response equals await HTTP client dot put async. So update is a put async, and it's not id, but this is passing the content, okay. So this is the content, multipart form data content. And then string response, API response is the same, response dot content dot read as string async, which is the received response. And then it is here, it will be before putting this line will be the same, but I will put something on the view back, which is a dynamic object, dynamic dictionary collection. View back dot result. If it comes to this point, then result is success, okay. So because I'll be checking this success parameter on the this view side. When you go to the this update customer view, and then this was actually received customer. Received customer. Okay, right. So I am just outside the inner using loop, outside the outer using loop, and then outside the model state dot validity check. Then I'll return this, return view with this customer object, received customer. Right, and then build it and then run the application to show the result. We are not actually able to show anything on the browser as yet, so I will just leave it after building it. Control Shift B, because I don't have the view, which I will build next in the next lecture, and then I will show you the update in action. So build started. So you can see the build succeeded. So everything is fine. Nothing is broken. So in this lecture, we have created the two different update customer. One is the HTTP get verb, another is HTTP post. So next lecture, we'll be proceeding further to create the update customer view to actually view after updation.